known book of Jane Austen's and the most popular. And even if you've not read it, you're bound to have seen one of the film versions. So it's something everyone had familiarity with, and I liked it. And the characters are so completely wacky. How can you go wrong?
Now, when you say zombie smash-up, I missed that.
Well, the Pride and Prejudice and Zombies book that really kind of, in a way, started this whole thing with taking the classics and just, completely going wild with them.
I missed that. Sorry.
It's great fun. It's great fun, yeah.
Oh, okay. So then
you must
right. Okay, now it's making perfect sense.
Yeah, so I mean, I kind of feel in a way I've done the same sort of thing that was done with the Zombies book, but instead of zombies, I've got plenty of raunchiness and sex in it.
And we can say that on the air, but that's okay. Let's see. You're in Florida now. Do you find it easy to promote from the States, or is it easier when you're in England?
I pretty much live on the internet, so wherever there's a nice, fast internet connection, I'm happy. But, it is better to be in your own environment and have, you're used to your way of having things and whatnot. But I'm kind of trying to juggle several time zones now, and I'm kind of mixed up. Because in England it's 5 hours ahead of where I am now. So a lot of stuff I might do from this time zone is missed over there.
It is real strange. And then if you're dealing with California...
Which I do frequently, yeah.
So how did you get this book published? You had a brainstorm session with your publisher.
Yes. Well, I've worked with several publishers over the years, but I was working with Cleus Press in the past, and then they republished my book of erotic fairy tales, and then I guess they just thought, well, hey, let's do some more stuff with Mitzi, and just got chatting about some ideas, and this is what came about. I put a proposal together and a few sample pages, and that was it, really. They said, yeah, okay, go with it.
Now, erotic fairy tales, that sounds like something that the ministers and the priests would get up in arms over.
Well, they shouldn't really, because if they've actually looked at fairy tales, there was quite a bit of, sexual content in them originally, and all of that stuff was excised for, when it was made for children's consumption. But traditionally, yeah, there was quite a bit of, dodgy content in the old fairy tales.
And in the old ones, they weren't called fairy tales back then, were they?
Well, folk tales would probably be the more accurate term, and I actually don't. I think fairy tales probably came into being when it became more for children. Yeah.
Right, but a lot of people don't get that. They don't understand that these I would think Prince Charming was a lot more charming.
He may well have been. I don't know. He certainly does have charm in my version.
So what you're doing is you're going back to the original. You're going back to the beginning, back to the future.
Well, in a way I am, and interestingly, when I did my book, which is actually called In Sleeping Beauty's Bed, Erotic Fairy Tales, when I did that book, I did the fairy tales first. I randomly just chose all sorts of fairy tales from all around the world, familiar and somewhat obscure, and just went with it. My crazy brain works in a certain way, and rewrote them. And then after I finished them, I researched each fairy tale, tracing them back as far as I possibly could, and also making reference to any, sexual content that had been in them. So each tale has a introduction outlining just how far back they go and some of the content that I was able to find. So it's a bit of a history lesson plus entertainment.
Well, speaking of history lesson, have you thought of a history book? I find that fascinating. I would love to read an exploration of how these stories began and how they morphed into children's stories, and now you're kind of morphing them back. It really is fascinating.
Yeah, well, actually, there are quite a few people who have done books on this and scholarly books on it. I mean, I had just stacks and stacks of research books from the library and internet trying to trace things, and sometimes it was like a needle in a haystack, but I did the best I could, and at least gave some good content about where these tales came from. But sure, there's whole studies on this in whole academic areas.
Now, I find this intriguing, Mitzi. With Oprah Winfrey going off of broadcast television the way she has, is there now a place where authors really go that they look at as a goal? Oprah was a goal for authors. Get on there, sell books. What's your goal right now? Who is like a very important critic that you'd love to talk to?
I don't really worry so much about that because, sometimes critics critics can be a blessing and they could be a curse, and you just don't know. I think I'd rather just let the book stand for itself, get it out there as much as possible. I've got quite a few people, like even just book bloggers, who have been really excited about the book, and the information just gets out there virally, and people find out. I mean, with Pride and Prejudice hadn't even been out, and some press people got wind of it, and there was an LA Times poll about, oh, do you want a XXX Jane Austen? That sparked a whole bunch of controversy. That got picked up by, lots of other major press. So, things just happen in a really strange viral way these days, and critics are not necessarily, gods anymore. No offense to critics, but,
Well, next week we'll post this on YouTube. We're closing for the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, tomorrow I would have uploaded to YouTube, our interview right now.
Well, at least you can't see me because I'm sort of frumpy looking at the moment.
Well, that's the good, we don't have Skype here yet, but they have to look at me and my beautiful visual radio.
Hey.
Thing. But I was really intrigued when your publicist got a hold of me and it's like, whoa, yes, I want to talk to Mitzi right away. I am really fascinated by this whole, not only the concept, but the body of work you've created, because it really, I'm just glad it came to my attention.
Well, I am too. I mean, I just like to do books that are a bit different from everyone else's. And, even though Pride and Prejudice is a popular book, and sure, it's been remade by other authors and films, and, even there's a Bollywood version of the film.
Really?
Yeah, and but I like to give it my own special spin. So even if you had 100 versions of Pride and Prejudice, mine will still have an individual stamp on it. And that's kind of my goal as a writer and as an anthology editor, to make it unique and not like everyone else.
Now, have you seen the Bollywood version?
I actually haven't, and I would like to. I missed it when it was on TV in the UK, but I'm sure it'll roll around again. And
the reason for my question is, will this book be translated into other languages, say Indian?
I honestly don't know. I mean, the thing is Jane Austen's use of language is so unique, and I'm not sure how well that would translate into another language. I mean, just the whole thing, the tone and the language, how it would translate. Obviously, that would be if my publisher finds a foreign publisher that wants to translate it, I wouldn't complain.
Right. And I think that, the cover is so innocent. Did you have any input on the cover?
I actually didn't, but they usually tend to be a bit more low-key with my books, because I'm, even though a lot of the books might be classified as erotic, they're a bit more mainstream. They're not so in your face. And I like the cover because it is subtle, and it's almost, there's this sort of innocent lass on the cover, but there's a bit of a wicked gleam in her eye, so.
And not only that, underneath in subtle red, hidden lusts, and it's like, what?
Yeah, if somebody's looking for something, something else, and they're going to go, oh dear, what's this?
Well, it's a jolt, because if you're looking at the classics and you see Pride and Prejudice, just to see those two words there, it is a bit of a jolt.
It's more of a jolt when you start reading it.
Now, adult movie companies might like to, but have any television companies thought of picking these up? Showtime would be perfect for this.
Well, actually, someone had asked me that question about, do you think this would be made into a film? And if it were, would it be, would it have to be something that could not be seen by anyone? It could actually go quite well as a film because it's got a lot of comedic elements to it, and you really wouldn't have to show that much to still get the gist of what was going on.
Well, Mitzi, it's not any more, say, risque than Jackie Suzanne, right?
Precisely. This is my argument that I'm always saying, is that you can take many of the books on the mainstream bestseller lists, and they could be far more explicit in content than any of my books.
I loved Myra Breckenridge by Gore Vidal, and I was like 16 at the time when it came out.
Yeah, that's classic. Yeah.
And it's a great book, and the movie is camp, and it's become a camp classic. But I like the movie for certain reasons. Raquel Welch and Mae West had incredible chemistry.
Yeah.
But the movie missed the mark. The director just totally failed to capture what Gore created. But that was a big brouhaha. It was X-rated, and people wouldn't go to it, and it was pretty tame if you look at it today.
Yeah, I think I've probably seen it on TV in the UK without any cuts. So I mean, that just shows you how far we've come since when was that? The '60s?
Yeah, because when Raquel Welch, attacks Rusty Herron, and Rusty Herron never got a role again, I think. But when she attacked him, it was all, they kept putting in other movie clips. And it just, you didn't see anything, really.
Yeah.
So for X-rated 1970 is, in 2011, what?
Prime time, yeah.
Yeah, and so, but I think you've got this marvelous body of work that Showtime or HBO. I think it would be a lot better than watching their real sex thing. Drives me crazy. It's so boring.
Yeah, I've seen some of those in the past, and I don't really like them. They just seem quite, I don't know, a bit tacky and cheesy.
Like Taxi Cab Confessions should be Tacky Cab Confessions.
I think I shut that off after 5 minutes. It's like trying to do something and not quite succeeding.
Well, I was working with this band back in 1995 from Philadelphia, and the guy calls me up. He goes, "I'm in Taxi Cab Confessions." One of his friends is the directors, and it's all set up. It's like Candid Camera. It's all actors. It's all set up. None of it's, impromptu. None of it's spontaneous.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
So it's supposed to be, but and that's why it's kind of dry and falls flat. You've got some real life here.